Hey there. Happy noon. Happy noon. Here we are again. Another wondrous session. Wondrous Roots, your health from the ground up. I am Rebecca Montrone, and holistic healthcare practitioner with a degree in holistic nutrition and also herbalist. So we're making a lot of really cool things here, health products for health conditions, for preventative health, for skin, or for upper respiratory, or for preventing colds and flu, and you name it, allergies. We try to do it here. We've just really done some cool things I'll explain a little bit more about. But anyway, it's really nice to see my guest coming into the room. And while you're doing that, I will just again, Becky Montrone, have a business here in Keene called Wondrous Roots. We are located on the third floor of the wonderful Miller Forge building in downtown Keene, New Hampshire, in Roxbury Street, just off Central Square. Our business hours here are 9:30 to 5, Monday through Friday. And our phone number is 603-439-2603. You can also reach out to me from the Contact Us section, a little link on wondrousroots.org. You can also catch up with what we're doing. I'm using the blog feature more at shopwondrousroots.com. So that's our online store, but you can also see other, what do I want to say? Integrative things there, like our videos, a link to our videos and things like that, and the blog. So what else do I want to say? I see clients in private consultation for all kinds of things, no matter, what. If you have a health problem, ask me, and I will let you know if I think I can help you out. And I really enjoy doing that. So our open shop hours, 9:30 to 5. That's when our door is open, and you're welcome to come in just to shop, to introduce yourself, to get to know us, say hello. And we also ship. We ship all over the country and all over the world, really. Just had a practitioner in Australia order some acetylglutathione from me, so probably something over there, and they have difficulty getting in their country. And that's not that unusual to get those international orders for specific things. Another popular thing that we ship overseas is our MSM eye drops. Believe it or not, they're a very popular product, and especially, I think, not the overseas ones, but today with people are worried about eye drops. We keep seeing problems with eye drops in the news, and problems with infections and things. We've never had a problem with our eye drops, and I don't anticipate any. MSM itself is antibacterial. So it right there is very preserving. We don't even use preservative-free saline solution for that. So anyway, yeah. And what else did I want to say? I think that's it. I also meet with clients all over the country and out of the country. So just to be no problem, we use the same application I'm using right now, Zoom, to do that. Or if somebody is not able to do that, telephone, the old-fashioned telephone still works too. So anyway, yes, welcome everyone. So I've had several clients just recently asking me specifically about fat in the diet. And I'm realizing that people are still being told that they have to really keep their saturated fat intake down, and cholesterol being a really big deal. And I see Debbie is here. Debbie was mentioning to me a couple of weeks ago, Life Extension magazine, highlighting the new recommendations of LDL cholesterol. That's supposedly the bad cholesterol, but it's not bad cholesterol. It is actually very important part of the immune system, believe it or not. Oh, if you want to participate, you can raise your hand and I'll call on you and you can talk. If you want to type in, you go to the chat and you can just type in your comments or questions, or you can go to the Q&A. So just wanted to remind you of that. So anyway, they're recommending that LDL cholesterol. Now, it used to be like 160 back in the day. The LDL, the so-called bad cholesterol, was supposed to be 160 or under. it's gone progressively. Every year it gets progressively lower. Now they want it at under 40, because 40 is what newborns are born with. Well, that makes a lot of sense, right? So anyway, it's all very, very disturbing. And, that people are still, I kind of thought the low fat fad had passed several years ago, that people were kind of like, the keto diet has come out, things like that, where we know that, a lot of our problems are sugar and carbs and stuff like that. So I didn't realize that people are still being told to, I guess in this day and age, I guess I did, but it just kind of shocks me knowing what I know. So anyway, I have a presentation I did years ago for a company that's an international company. They are found in every single country, but their headquarters is here in New Hampshire, in Manchester, and it's called First USA. And First USA is all about inventions. So robotics and all this kind of stuff, really kind of fueling the flame for getting people interested into inventing things. And one of my clients from Nashua at the time, they had developed a new wellness committee. And they thought it'd be great to have a wellness luncheon and to get a nutritionist to come speak while they had this lunch. So I was selected, and I went to do this. Now, I've got a really funny kind of little story to tell you about that, but I'll wait until I'm going through the presentation to do it. I just noticed when I was trying to, before I actually opened up the webinar today, that I can't do the actual PowerPoint presentation, so I'm going to have to do the PDF, which isn't as snazzy. It's just not visually as great, but that way I won't be blocked out so that I can't see if you're trying to participate or something like that. So we'll just have to go with that. And I did include it in the newsletter so that you can have access to it. It's something that I often send to my clients if we're talking about that kind of thing, so they can kind of just get my gist on things. And when it comes to healthy eating, I've done a lot of talking about that lately, but I think it bears repeating. And I think, for many, this will still be an eye-opener because of the propaganda that is out there about the dangers of the saturated fats. And in my newsletter, there's a great, excellent podcast by Sally Fallon Morell of the Weston A. Price Foundation. So again, many of you are Weston A. Price Foundation aficionados. I certainly am. Weston A. Price, the dentist, the late Weston A. Price, who was a dentist who went to and visited many foreign communities and found that native peoples, when they ate their native diet, did so much better with their health and their teeth and their bone structure that, of course, holds the teeth, than they did when they started to incorporate features of the Western diet. And so Sally Fallon Morell is the president now. She's carried on that work. And she does a lot of work with a woman by the name of Mary Innig. Anyway, a great, great resource. And there's a link if you haven't been to Weston A. Price Foundation website. It is a treasure trove of healthful, nutritional information. It is a great, wonderful resource. And, she says here, or it says heading out this, I'm just going to read that because we're going to go through the whole presentation and hit some highlights, but I really do want to focus on the fat part because that's really confusing. Unfortunately, it says traditional fats have been replaced in many kitchens by heart-healthy, so-called heart-healthy, right? Processed oils and spreads. Here, Sally Fallon Morell, the president of the Weston A. Price Foundation, explains how detrimental this is for our health. She discusses who is behind this push and why. She busts the myth that high cholesterol has a role in chronic illness and heart disease. There we go. She helps us understand why we actually need cholesterol in our diet. If you've ever listened to me rant and rave before, personally or in a forum such as this or on the radio, cholesterol is the Lord and giver of life in our bodies. We think most of us, right? We think of, and most people out there think of cholesterol as some bad, globby, sticky, thick substance that's up, just filling up their blood vessels and arteries, and blocking blood flow. And it's just this imagination that is conjured up that is just not what atherosclerosis and heart disease is all about, and hardening of the arteries. We talked about that a lot last week. I talked about that a lot last week on vitamin K. We were talking about vitamin K and the arteries and the bones and all of that. So anyway, she helps us understand why we actually need cholesterol in our diet, how the food we consume does not affect the cholesterol in our bloodstream, and why statins are not the answer for avoiding heart disease. And I want to actually go back to, was talking about Debbie and I discussing the article in the Life Extension magazine. I was I don't know, Debbie will have to give me her take on this because she was the only one who had read it when we talked about it. And that is, Life Extension seems to me a little bit to have caved on this subject. They're conceding that cholesterol is the problem here, is a big problem. And I'm just like, this is Life Extension. I'm not very pleased with that, with that article, which is why I didn't put it in here in my newsletter. Anyway, Sally goes deep and wide, examining the flawed research that has led us to where we are today and making a strong case for why we should embrace traditional fats like butter, lard, and tallow rather than demonizing them. Super important. So you're going to be able to do that. And then towards the end of the program today, I'm actually going to talk a little bit. This is another topic, if we have time, which we probably will. Shungite stones. People are asked me, I had a client in just 2 days ago, a young woman who's 21 years old and pregnant with her first child, and asking me what I do to filter our drinking water at home. And I use shungite stone. And I know many of you do know that because I've talked about it in the past, but I have in the newsletter also my updated sheet. I just always try to make sure that the hyperlinks to purchase the stones in the BPA 3-gallon containers, if you want to get them from Amazon, what you can get, and the shungite stone itself and how to do it. And we'll talk about that a little bit, but it's really economical. It's super easy. Anyway, I'll talk about that later. So then I also, before I go, well, maybe I'll just close up with that little announcement about next week. Okay, so I am going to share my screen. I think I'm going to be able to see you. My husband Dale is in the co-pilot chair from behind the scenes. So if I can't see that you've put something in the chat or something and I can't see it, then he will let me know. So off we go. Okay, share my screen. See, isn't this better? Like, I couldn't do this before. I could not do this on the radio. I could talk it through, and I've done that. And I've done that like with my slide presentation on moringa. I've probably done it with my slide presentation on Alzheimer's disease and cancer. See, now I can do those things here. And you can see what I'm talking about. I just think that's absolutely wonderful. And so anyway, packing a healthy and satisfying lunch. So the reason, again, for the title was because this was a workplace type of presentation, and it was kind of centered around what you can bring to, it was just kind of like what you can bring to lunch, to work for lunch. But that was just kind of the setting of the whole thing. So it has to do with everything. It doesn't have to do with just lunch, as you would know. Okay. So yeah, a lot of confusion. What's really healthy, right? Low fat, low carb, organic, GMOs, weight loss, diabetes, artificial sweeteners, healthy fats, unhealthy fats, cholesterol, sodium, whole grains, blah. Please tell me. So many of these questions can be addressed by laying down some basic food ground rules. These are my ground rules. And these are probably things you've heard from me because I tend to rant and rave about the same things often. My golden rule of food: if God didn't make it, don't eat it. right? So your fruit and vegetables, your meat, fish, poultry, dairy, your grains as well, legumes, those kinds of things. It means purchasing foods in their most basic, original, and pure form. We have a lot of funky modified foods. And I use when I'm using the term modified right now, I'm talking about like Benecol, right? Instead of butter, or low fat milk. Those kinds of things. So this is not how they were originally. That's not their original state. And then you can get into, really upping the thing where you take rice and you turn it into Rice Krispies, and then you turn, you make or whatever. You can make chips and all kinds of things, and then add stuff to them. So we want to purchase things in their most basic, original, and pure forms, and use those predominantly. Now, this is where my little funny story comes in from that presentation I did years ago at First USA, this luncheon. So I said, when possible, yes to no GMO and no to GMO toxicity. And I mentioned on this slide Monsanto. And when I did, there was a gasp that rippled across the room that we were in, where everybody was sitting there eating their lunch. And I looked up, and somebody said to me, "It's all right, just keep going." So anyway, so I did, and you'll see where this gets even a little bit hairier. So I talked here about the dirty dozen. There were certain plants, and I know that this list has been updated since then, but I didn't update that slide. But there were certain vegetables and fruits that are worse if they're not organic than others. And these are, peaches, apples, bell peppers, celery, nectarines, strawberries, cherries, pears, imported grapes, spinach, lettuce, potatoes. So these are ones that you really want to try to get organic. Sometimes you can't, right? But those are the ones. Some of these other ones, these are less a problem with the pesticides that they hold in, right? So they're not as rich a source of the pesticides that have been sprayed on them if they're not organic. All right, so onions, avocados, grapefruit, pineapples, mangoes, asparagus, frozen sweet peas, and I don't know why the distinction of the frozen versus kiwi fruit, bananas, cabbage, broccoli, papayas. I just talked about that lately, sweet potatoes, and cauliflower. So some you can say, wow, here I am at Hannaford's, they don't have this and whatever. That's fine. I can't get my organic avocados. Fine, avocados aren't that big of a deal. But I'm probably just going to pass on the bell peppers, right? If I can't get them, and wait till I can get those. The unholy trio, these are the three crops are the largest GMO crops. Genetic modification enables them to withstand heavy pesticide treatment with glyphosate, which is Roundup. And when we talk about corn, I'm not talking about the sweet corn you eat. I'm talking about the great vast cornfields from which they make corn syrup and high fructose corn syrup. So I'm not talking about that lovely corn we got from anyway, the green wagon here in Keene, and other great farmers in your local area. So it's not about that corn, and it's not about red beets, right, or orange beets. It's not about the beets you're eating either. It's the sugar beets. But sugar beets are a large source of processed sugar in our country. And the other thing is soybean, right? So soybeans are very, very heavily, sprayed with glyphosate, Roundup pesticide. So those are the big ones you want to. And this is another big reason why we avoid processed foods. Okay, so I say yes to animal foods from animals not given hormones, antibiotics, or kept in unhealthy living conditions. Okay. So this is the whole idea of the grass-fed kind of thing. And I do also want to say about that, Caitlin Caserta from Walpole Valley Farms was in just about 2 weeks ago. And she and her family were on their way to Europe for about a month because it's their slow season and they work their butts off, as you well know, during the farming season. And great source of your great, wonderful ranched foods from beef to pork to poultry, you name it, and eggs, everything. But anyway, she told me that now this goes ways back when I was still on the radio, but some of you will remember that Joel Salatin, who is the son of the older Salatin, who's written very many books and is very famous in this whole world of organic ranching and what do we call it? Sustainable ranching and farming and all of that. And a couple of others, she said, would be glad to, and I'm going to look at the chat. You mean no, not yes, right? I'll have to look at the slide you're talking about. And if I missed that, Bob, well, shame on me. Yeah, no to this and yes to this. But maybe he was talking about one I did over here. Let's go look. Well, I don't think I've gotten there yet. But anyway, yeah, no to GMO toxicity and yes to non-GMO. That's what that's all about. So when you see that, that can be really vague too. What does that really mean? Yes to these chickens that are running wild and no to these. Anyway, they are going to be on a Zoom with me in December. And we'll probably have Caitlin and 2 or 3 other prominent ranchers who speak to all of this type of sustainable farming. And I think you guys are just going to absolutely, I know I'm going to love it. When we did it on the radio, it was just a shame because it was during COVID and the radio station wanted to know if we'd had our shots and blah, blah, blah. We all did it from home. Well, somewhere long distance anyway, but Caitlin and I both did it from home too. And we had like 4 people on telephones and it just did not come across well at all in the broadcast. It was horrible. It was just terrible. So this will be another opportunity to do that. And I'm super excited about that. Again, use whole foods whenever possible. Yes, no. That's extreme. So real food. This is what I've talked about. I've been doing a whole year practically on vitamins and different nutrients and things like that. So real food, stick with the originals. Yes, please. No, thanks. Pure butter, grass-fed. No, thanks. The margarine. Yes to this. The cheese is fine. Not to this. See, this is the original state. This is the souped up, fancy processed state. And here we have, yes to homemade chicken soup. That looks like it's in my crock pot at that point in time. And no to these ramen noodles with all kinds of chemicals and MSG type look-alike things that are neurotoxic. Yay to, see, this is what I don't like about this. It takes a while for it to focus in. I want it, if I had my slideshow, my PowerPoint, it wouldn't do that. But anyway, I can't have everything. Yay to the fresh fruit, right? And nay to that kind of like, I don't know, syruped down fruit cocktail, I think they call that. So you get the idea. Yes to this, no to that. So here's a good tip, something to keep in mind. If your food can go bad, it's good for you. If it can't go bad, it's bad for you. Yeah, it's like, I just bought this bread and it's moldy. Well, good. Wonder Bread. See how long Wonder Bread lasts. Well, it'll last a lot longer. See how long your French fries that you dropped in your car from fast food. See how long they just sit there in their same original state. So this is pretty sobering. Oh, so anyway, I didn't tell you the whole thing about this, all of this processed foods and genetically modified organisms. So after I got done doing this talk at that luncheon, one of the people on the wellness committee came scurrying up to me and said, our biggest contributor, our biggest donor, grantor, our biggest grantor is Monsanto. Our biggest grantor is Monsanto. And she said, it's okay. It's okay. But now, I was supposed to give this talk, and then these individuals had done a lottery, people who worked in the company, and these lucky, recipients were going to get their own personal 15 minutes with me, big whoop, right? But she said to me, just please do not mention Monsanto in your private meetings with people. So anyway, I don't know why they've never asked me back for another talk, but they haven't. Anyway, I can hear you laughing. I can hear it. So why would you eat that stuff? Why would eat that? Who would eat that stuff? Okay. Processed foods make up at least 75% of the diets of the majority of people in the United States. Yeah, it's scary, right? And it's obvious. We see so much ill health. There is such an obvious sheen on the health of people in our population. All you have to do is look around, and you can tell people lack vitality. And a great many people do. Some have vitality, and those are the ones who are paying attention. But it is really, it's really a shame when you consider that we are supposed to be the most advanced nation and have the greatest, we've got the best, most money. So, well, we won't get into that, but we've got supposedly, we can have the best of things, and yet we're not taking advantage of that. In addition, due to high consumption of processed foods, it is estimated Westerners consume 3 times the modern soy of Asians. So you'll see here in this, this label here, we got whole grain oats, sugar, canola oil. Doesn't this sound like really good, whatever this is? Yellow corn flour, honey, soy flour, right there. Brown sugar syrup, salt, soy lecithin. Soy lecithin doesn't bother me. It's just a small amount. It's an emulsifier. Anyway, and then here you've got soybean oil in some sort of either a salad dressing or whatever. Enriched wheat flour. So this is probably like crackers or something like that. Soybean oil. So you might say, like, what's the big deal? So who cares, right? Thyroid health. Soybean is goitrogenic. It's a goitrogenic food, which goitrogens are substances which cause the thyroid gland to be unable to process iodine. Oh no, Becky, don't get going on iodine, please. Don't let her do this, people are saying correctly, and its ability to create hormones. Soybeans and soy products, such as tofu, soy protein powders, soy milk, and popular soy versions of dairy foods are some of the foods that can decrease the function of the thyroid gland. They contain a type of phytonutrient that blocks iodine processing, which in turn decreases thyroid hormone production. I remember one time I was at a conference, and there was a doctor giving a presentation, and she asked, why is it we have so many overweight vegetarians? And later we happened to be in the elevator together, and I mentioned to her that vegetarians typically rely strongly on soy for their protein, to make up for the protein they're not getting in animal foods. And this is the whole thing I was talking about. Safe soy foods for everyday use are those that are fermented. I talked last week about miso, tempeh, which you can slice up and use in different dishes. These are fermented. The fermentation breaks down the goitrogenic phytate in soybeans. So fermented foods are also rich in enzymes and probiotics, providing they haven't been pasteurized or overheated. So you can use some soy foods, and you can even use, like I say here, I will in a moment, it looks like. Another concern is a widespread genetic modification of soybean crops, which we just talked about. So these are the you could enjoy these things in moderation. The non-GMO, unfermented soy, right? You're not going to eat them every day. When I was able to travel a couple of times with Dale on his business to Taiwan, the soy milk, oh my gosh, at the breakfast, this big breakfast spread at the hotel was so good. I never drink soy milk here, and I don't know, but it was so creamy and good. And the things they did with these foods, but you would eat those in moderation to cut down on that goitrogenic phytate. But then when you think about it, right? So the Asians don't really cut down on these foods, but they don't have the problem that we do. That's because of all the added soy to the packaged and processed foods that people are eating. So just do it. Like as you're picking up a bag of crackers or a box of crackers or a bag of chips of some kind or whatever, or you're eating store-bought salad dressing or whatever, just look at your mayonnaise, look at everything, just look at anything that you've got in your pantry maybe that's processed, and see if I'm telling the truth, and you will see that it's true. So we're getting a lot of secret soy, if you will. Okay, so here's really important. Eat foods with the percentage of the fat they contain in their natural state. They were put together by our Creator that way for a reason. And it's super important because without the fat, like say in the dairy, you cannot absorb the fat soluble vitamins that are present in the dairy. And so these things, they're not hit or miss. God is not a hit or miss kind of creator. It's like, this is the way it's done. And it also slows down the rate of the absorption of the lactose, of the sugar in the dairy foods, right? Which keeps your blood sugar from spiking too high too quickly. This, I'm not going to really go into this. I might do this another day. This was a client, well, I'll just go briefly. This was a client who was like, I just can't lose weight. This was years ago. And in the morning, she ate low-fat yogurt, low-fat granola, and an apple with apple. And you would think, wow, that's great, right? Wow, how could she be gaining weight on that? So, but her non-sugar carbs were 29 grams when I figured this all out. The sugar itself was 45 grams. Her total carbs were 74 grams. Her protein was 17 grams. And her fat was only 7 grams, fiber 7.5. So I recommended, like I used that as an example of how we can find things that are shooting us in the foot when we think what we're doing is really healthy, right? So I said full fat cottage cheese, raspberries, hemp hearts, and walnuts instead. And we there got non-sugar carbs came down to 5.8. The sugar carbs came down to 5.5. The total carbs from 74 to 11.3. Protein from 17 grams to greater than 19 grams. Fat, yes, 19 grams compared to 7. But as we're going to find out, that fat is healthful. And fiber, not too much different. So this is the kind of thing we have to think about. When we think of how we're being told by Madison Avenue and by many healthcare providers who have kind of just bought into that, you say something often enough and frequently enough and loud enough, and people just think that must be the case. Here's a very interesting study. High dairy fat intake related to less central obesity. A male cohort study with 12 years follow-up. So very interesting. And they go down and they talk, and you can see this on my slideshow that I've provided in my newsletter. But the conclusion was a high intake of dairy fat was associated with a lower risk of central obesity, and a low dairy fat intake was associated with a higher risk of central obesity. Just the opposite, right, of what you would expect. And, your jaw's probably just like dropping. So, then here again, now they say But what about central obesity? But what about, your cardiovascular disease? And what about your diabetes or metabolic disease? When I say metabolic disease, just basically talking about that kind of dusty path that can lead to, and often does, if you don't do anything about it at that stage of metabolic disease, to type 2 diabetes. The relationship between high fat dairy consumption and obesity, cardiovascular, and metabolic disease. It says the observational evidence does not support the hypothesis that dairy fat or high dairy foods contribute to obesity or cardiometabolic risk, and suggests that high fat dairy consumption within typical dietary patterns is inversely associated with obesity risk. Although not conclusive, these findings may provide a rationale for future research into the bioactive properties of dairy fat and the impact of bovine feeding practices on the health effects of dairy fat. So again, the obvious thing would be, oh, it's too much fat, it's going to make you fat. But the bioactive properties of dairy fat, these are things that are below the surface. They're not things that we think about at a first glance. We just think fat. It's just like we think cholesterol. Okay, shocking. So a high intake of dairy fat was associated, I just read that to you. What about the sugar? So sugar, just go off on that a little bit. Added sugar intake and cardiovascular disease mortality among US adults. And then from this, the conclusions and relevance, most that were in that paper that you didn't see, most US adults consume more added sugar than is recommended for a healthy diet. We observed a significant relationship between added sugar consumption and increased risk for cardiovascular disease mortality, causing that inflammation. And then here, new unsweetened truths about sugar. Overconsumption of added sugars has long been associated with an increased risk of cardiovascular disease. However, under the old paradigm, it was assumed to be a marker for unhealthy diet or obesity. The new paradigm views sugar overconsumption as an independent risk factor in cardiovascular disease, as well as many other chronic diseases, including diabetes mellitus, liver cirrhosis, and dementia, all linked to metabolic perturbations involving dyslipidemia, your lipids being off, hypertension. Oh, but we thought that was from eating saturated fat. No, that's sugar. Hypertension and insulin. We thought that was salt. Sugar plays a big role there. Hypertension, high blood pressure, insulin resistance, right, leading to diabetes. The new paradigm hypothesis that sugar has adverse health effects above any purported role as empty calories promoting obesity. That's what we used to think, right? That's what they used to think, okay, that we're talking about, well, it's empty calories and sugar makes you fat. But no, it's more than that. Too much sugar does not just make us fat, it can also make us sick. Sugar in the immune system, eating or drinking 100 grams of sugar, the equivalent of 2.5 12-ounce cans of soda, can reduce the ability of white blood cells to kill germs by 40%. The immune suppressing effect of sugar starts less than 30 minutes after ingestion and may last for 5 hours. Wow. So skip the soda with your packing your healthy lunch. Skip the soda. In contrast, the ingestion of complex carbohydrates or starches has no effect on the immune system. And that's very, very interesting. And the science behind this whole thing with the white blood cells is that the pathway to fuel the white blood cells of vitamin C is shared by sugar. And so this is the problem. But very interesting, it's not like your starches, right? Like your pasta or your potatoes. That doesn't have an effect on the immune system. So that's very, very interesting. Okay. Now, we get to the part that I really wanted to get to, the fats. So let's talk about them, or I'll talk about them and you listen. But if you want to participate, I can see the Q&A and the chat up there if you do that. And I can probably also, so just let me know if you want to chime in. Short medium, and long chain fatty acids. So short and medium chain fatty acids are absorbed into the bloodstream from the gut and are transported directly to the liver. They provide a quick energy source. Long chain fatty acids must be emulsified in the gut by bile salts and are absorbed into the lymphatic system for delivery to the blood. So they bypass the liver, returning to the heart, and only reach the liver as part of the normal blood circulation. They tend to be used as storage fats. So when you eat saturated fats, coconut oil, monounsaturates, when you eat lard, butter, coconut oil, palm oil, these are ready energy that goes straight from the gut to the liver. The long chain fatty acids, and there we're talking about vegetable oils that are supposedly so much better for us because they're not saturated. It's just the opposite is true. They have a whole different way of assimilation in our bodies to begin with. Saturated fats, animal and tropical fats, such as butter, fatty meats, animal lard, coconut, and palm oils. Saturated fats are those that remain solid at room temperature. They are stable and they resist rancidity. They're stable. They don't go bad. Whoops. Oh, Dale, my husband is saying, you're making me hungry. Me too. And actually, I've got some really great chicken that I'm going to make some sort of a yummy dish when I get home this afternoon. So hang in there, Dale. All right. At room temperature, they're stable and resist rancidity. They don't go bad. Notice when you have, say like a can of nuts, mixed nuts or something like that you bought, right? And keep them too long and you open them up. You can smell for rancidity. We use different oils here, and like I might have tamanu oil or emu oil. That's animal. I'm just trying to think of other things that we use. Like we'll use macadamia nut oil in our skincare products and things. And we use them regularly. We have them up to date, but I always smell them first, right? You can smell a rancid oil. It just has a different smell. And if you smell anything like that, you toss it because it now has turned rancid, and it makes it all the more inflammatory in your body when you consume it. So anyway, the human brain boasts a saturated fat content of 66%. So, what is this, that we're not supposed to be feeding our brains? Why is there so much Alzheimer's? Yeah, but at least their cholesterol is below 50. So this is what's really going to surprise many. Some health bennies of saturated fats, improved cardiovascular risk factors. It enlarges the LDL cholesterol, while it is a small particle LDL, LPA, that is implicated in cardiovascular disease. The only known way to lower LPA is eating saturated fat. That's the one form of LDL that is damaging to your arteries because it's small and gnarly and inflammatory, and it causes damage. It doesn't block it. It causes damage, and then plaque is formed, which is mostly calcium. But it's the damage, the inflammatory damage from that small particle LDL. How do you make a small particle LDL go away? You eat saturated fat, and it turns this small little hard little gnarly thing into think about a nice fair weather cloud. Instead, it's not inflammatory. Another thing about LDL I want to tell you, I don't think I mentioned it earlier in this talk, is LDL is a huge part of the immune system. So it's not, we say, oh, that's a bad cholesterol. Number one, LDL and HDL are not cholesterol. They're the carrying molecules for cholesterol. The low density lipoprotein has a role in the body. And if yours has risen, it might tell you that your immune system is activated for something. We also know that people with low cholesterol have higher incidence of cancer. because of this immune system function. So please don't mess with the way the Lord put together our bodies. It was ingeniously, are ingeniously created. And, we'd get in there and try to say, oh, we know better. We know that it would be better if we just lowered things, just lower that cholesterol. And then we open another whole can of worms. So these fats are stable. They do not oxidize, leading to the production of free radicals that damage the arterial epithelium. Stronger bones. Who would think about saturated fat having anything to do with bones? But calcium cannot be properly assimilated into bone without the help of saturated fat. So here you are with your skim or low-fat milk or no-fat milk, right? Doesn't work for your bones. Improved liver health. Encourages the liver to clear its fat, which is the first step in clearing middle area fat, increasing metabolism. Provides protection from alcohol and drug toxicity. Lung health. For proper function, the air spaces of the lungs have to be coated with a thin layer of what is called lung surfactant. The fat content of lung surfactant is 100% saturated fatty acids. Replacement of these critical fats by other types of fat makes faulty surfactant and potentially causes breathing difficulties. Yeah, I won't continue to state the obvious. Healthy brain. Your brain is mainly made of fat and cholesterol. Oh, really? Whoa. Well, what happens to your brain when you want to get somebody's cholesterol down, below 100, the total cholesterol? What are they saying now? Below, I don't know, total cholesterol, the lower the better. I think they want to get total cholesterol below 170, 140, somewhere there. And now they're talking about LDL cholesterol down to 40. Your brain is made mainly of fat and cholesterol, though many people are now familiar with the importance of the highly unsaturated essential fatty acids found in cold water fish, like our omega-3, for normal brain and nerve function. The lion's share of the fatty acids in the brain are actually saturated. A diet that skimps on healthy saturated fats robs your brain of the raw materials it needs to function optimally. Proper nerve signaling. Certain saturated fats, particularly those found in butter, lard, coconut oil, and palm oil, function directly as signaling messengers that influence the metabolism, including such critical jobs as the appropriate release of insulin. And just any old fat won't do. Without the correct signals to tell the organs and glands what to do, the job doesn't get done or gets done improperly. Strong immune system. Saturated fats found in butter and coconut oil, myristic acid and lauric acid, play key roles in immune health. Loss of sufficient saturated fatty acids in the white blood cells hampers their ability to recognize and destroy foreign invaders, such as viruses, bacteria, and fungi. Human breast milk is quite rich in myristic and lauric acid, which have potent germ-killing ability. What I want to say about that is I often recommend for, monolaurin and lauric acid, they kill all of the lipid-coated virus, bacteria, and fungi. And those are all the herpes viruses, and Staph aureus and many other things, right? So we have that. We have monolaurin in capsule form here for people, for their immune systems, especially someone comes in and says, I just got diagnosed with shingles. It's like, boom, not a bad thing to do throughout the season to keep yourself from getting those things. Or if you're prone to cold sores, we have monolaurin also combined with lauric acid. We have lauric acid, monolaurin combined with L-lysine in a product called Laurozine, which is for helping to prevent the development of cold sores. So this is when we talk about coconut oil and monolaurin and myristic acid and lauric acid from coconut. This is very, very, very essential. But remember how demonized the tropical oils were for such a long time and still are in many people's minds. Loss of sufficient saturated fatty acids in the white blood cells hamper. Yes. Okay. But the importance of the fats lives on beyond infancy. We need dietary replenishment of them throughout adulthood, middle age, and into seniority to keep the immune system vigilant against the development of cancerous cells, as well as infectious invaders. You see our health provided naturally in the things that were created ingeniously for us to enjoy. Short and medium chain triglyceride sources are like coconut oil. You might see things like MCT oils, those of you who are into keto, the keto diet and things like that, making a bulletproof coffee, thyroid support, weight management, immune system support, prevent and even reverse degenerative brain diseases such as Alzheimer's disease. And that is because when the brain cells, the certain brain cells that are involved in Alzheimer's will no longer, they have an insulin resistance and they will no longer accept glucose for fuel. They will accept ketone energy for fuel. And that's really quite remarkable. And I'll talk about that more when I talk about Alzheimer's disease one day. Instant energy that the cells can readily use. And remember, going straight from the gut to the liver, not going into the lymphatic system and thereby hitting the bloodstream and then only reaching the liver as storage fat later on. The healthiest fats: extra virgin organic coconut oil, butter, animal lard, olive oil, avocado oil, walnut oil. These are very excellent sources of oils to work with, cook with, and whatnot. The puffer problems, the polyunsaturated fats are found in vegetable oils, are unstable. They generate free radicals that damage our skin, arteries, organs, and that are linked to the development of cancers. They produce an unhealthy ratio between omega-6 and omega-3 fatty acids, leading to blood clots. Come on, focus in. Inflammation, high blood pressure, irritation of the digestive tract, depressed immune function, sterility, cell proliferation and cancer, weight gain, and thyroid dysfunction. But yet, so when you have some favorite recipes and you see them calling for, vegetable oils, and you don't want to use something with a flavor like olive oil, you can use refined coconut oil, which is perfectly healthy if it's organic, and it doesn't have the flavor. But another good substitute for, say, canola oil, when you see that in recipes, is grapeseed oil. MCTs versus PUFAs and weight. Substituting coconut oil for vegetable oils in your diet will help promote weight loss. The use of refined vegetable oil actually promotes weight gain, not just from its caloric content, but from its effect on the thyroid and metabolism. Polyunsaturated fats depress thyroid activity, thus lowering metabolic rate, just the opposite of coconut oil. Eating polyunsaturated fats will contribute to weight gain more than any other known fat, quote, according to researcher Ray Peat, PhD. Unsaturated oils block thyroid hormone secretion, its movement and circulation, and the responsive tissues to the hormone. When thyroid hormones are deficient, metabolism becomes depressed. Polyunsaturated oils are, in essence, high-calorie fats and encourage weight gain more than any other type of fat. If you want to lose weight, you would be better off eating lard, because lard does not depress thyroid function. I found a great page on animal lard last night, and I didn't put it in my newsletter. Maybe I'll do that another time. But if you do some searching on it, you can find some really great things and recipes and different lards for different things, like whether it be pig or chicken. Chicken is called, chicken lard is called, that the Jewish people use it all the time, schmaltz, right? And saving your bacon fat. Strain it, filter it, and keep it in a container. Bacon fat is a great source of good cooking fat. What about canola oil? Canola oil is extracted from rape seeds that have been bred to contain less of some unfavorable substance. Most of the world's canola crop is genetically modified. Canola oil is made with a highly unnatural processing method that involves high heat, deodorization, and the toxic solvent hexane. Significant amounts of trans fats are formed during this process. So canola is not a healthy oil. Boy, that's been touted for a long time. So I say here, lean towards saturated fats such as coconut oil, butter, lard, fatty meats, your nice lamb. There we go. Monounsaturated fats is found in olive oil and avocado oil. Try to avoid polyunsaturated fats is found in vegetable oils, canola oil, peanut oil. Unhealthy fats in summary. So anyway, bread and grains, probably not going to go too much there. Talk about the modern wheat. Contains 7 times the gluten of the ancient einkorn wheat. Modern wheat contains a constituent that raises blood sugar higher and faster than a table sugar or even a Snickers bar. So anyway, we can probably go through there and talk about bread in general and grains maybe another time. I always warn people not to use the microwave. Microwave technology was developed to destroy the integrity of substances so that they could be manipulated. Heating and cooking with microwave technology creates cancer-causing compounds and provokes a stress response in the person consuming them. Heating with plastic causes the synthetic estrogen's content to skyrocket. Here we have, in 1989, Swiss biologist and food scientist Dr. Hans Hertel studied the effects of microwaved food. 8 people participated in the study. For 8 weeks, they lived in a controlled environment and intermittently ate raw foods, conventionally cooked foods, and microwave foods. Blood samples were tested after each meal. They discovered that eating microwave food over time causes significant changes in blood chemistry. A decrease in hemoglobin and cholesterol values in the HDL, good cholesterol versus LDL, bad cholesterol ratio, and in white blood cells, weakening the immune system, and an increase in leukocyte levels, which tends to indicate poisoning and cell damage. Hertel stated, quote, blood cholesterol levels are less influenced by cholesterol content of food than by stress factors. Such stress-causing factors can apparently consist of foods which contain virtually no cholesterol, the microwave vegetables. So why does cholesterol rise in response to stress? Because cholesterol is the raw material needed for the adrenal glands to make the stress hormones to handle the stress. Russia actually banned the use of microwave ovens when their research revealed, among other disturbing findings, that heating prepared meats in a microwave sufficiently for human consumption created D-nitroso-deethylamine, a well-known cancer-causing agent, destabilization of active protein biomolecular compounds, and creation of a binding effect to radioactivity in the atmosphere, which we have tons of today. And then finally on that, 7th grade student Claire Nelson discovered she tested 4 different plastic wraps and found not just the carcinogens, but also xenoestrogen, okay, so synthetic estrogens that are found in plastics, was migrating into the oil. Xenoestrogens are linked to low sperm counts in men and to breast cancer in women. Throughout her junior and senior years, Claire made a couple of trips each week to the research center, which was 25 miles from her home, to work on her experiment. An article in Options reported her analysis found that DEHA, not DHEA, guys, DEHA, a known carcinogen, cancer-causing chemical, was migrating into the oil at between 200 parts and 500 parts per million. The FDA standard is 0.05 parts per billion. Per billion. Do you see? Why are we so sick? And it comes down to these things. So we're running late. I was talking here, but you'll be able to see the rest of what I didn't get to just a little bit. And if you look at that, I'm going to stop my share and come back here. And thanks everybody for staying on with me. I want to talk about the shungite. So I'm just going to open that up really quick. So shungite is a stone that's only found in one specific part of Russia. It is in Karelia, near Shunga village in Karelia, Russia, from where it gets its name. It's not a mineral in the strictest sense of the word, and shungite comes from only one place on Earth. Shungite is relatively new here in the West, but it is told that Peter the Great was so impressed with the healing effects of water passing through the stone deposits that he created a shungite spa for his soldiers. Those who had been exposed to a poisonous ore and drank from that water recovered much more quickly than those who did not. Now, it filters out the bad stuff, the shungite stone. You put stones in a sack and you put them in a 3-gallon container and you put your tap water over it and you wait 12 hours and you can drink it. And it's perfectly clean of all the stuff that was in there. And also, it imparts what are known as fullerenes. And these are beneficial for cardiovascular disease, kidney disease, liver disease, pancreatic disease, gastritis and dyspepsia, gallbladder problems, anemia, asthma, allergies, as an antihistamine, chronic fatigue, arthritis, anti-inflammatory. I tell you there how to do it. It's very simple to do. It's very easy to do. I've only changed my stones in probably the 5 or 6 years we've been doing it once. on my second batch. And it's really a wonderful way to do it. You can see in that document, click on, it'll take you to Amazon to the exact products I'm talking about. If you want to do it and get it set up, it tells you how to do that here. Next week, I'm having, since doing this as a webinar, and actually I see Raymond is on right now. Raymond's been my guest on the radio many times, and Raymond, I'm going to be trying to corner you to get you to come on to do a program now that I'm doing it this way in the future. But next week I have on Dan Glazer from Alpha Biocentrics, and he's been a radio guest like 3 times in the past, and he's a really great, the bioenergy discs that many of you might be familiar with. This is one, Detox Plus, right? They're programmed with energy frequencies. They go on your left shoulder usually, and these are really, they call it software for the human body. And this is a great way, another form of a supplement we can use to help with our health. And they've got a brand new one out called Brain Heart for chronic fatigue and Epstein-Barr. And they also have some that I have been looking at that I hadn't paid much attention to before. So Dan and I are going to be talking about that, and you'll be able to ask him your questions next week. So in the meantime, I hope you have a wonderful Veterans Day. So we have a chat. Dale Manchone, I just want to heat my coffee. Yeah, but you don't want to do that. Just get a fresh cup of coffee. Just get a fresh cup of coffee. Don't heat your coffee in the microwave. What I want to say is thank you for being here. It is Veterans Day, and I hope that you, I just want to express my reverence and my gratitude to our veterans, military in this country, and I know that all of you do too. And I will be back next week. I sent out a second newsletter honoring our veterans, and also describing that we're going to be, we have right now going on for Veterans Day weekend, free shipping on our website, and highlighting a couple of new products that, new packaging of our bath bars, and now our tea light tins are out. So check that out too. And I'll look forward to seeing you next week.